Hi Radhika,
Hi, Umang. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Good morning. It's super early where you are right now.
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much for joining in. I know you okay. Hopefully you got a cup of coffee in you.
Yes, I did. I'm drinking it right now, actually.
Perfect. So I'm gonna quickly start by introducing Often. I'm gonna start and then introduce you guys. Often is a platform, previously physical platform, now digital platform for change makers, taste makers, and small businesses to express themselves, tell people about what they're doing, the change they're making in the world today. Again, very similar to what you guys are doing, where you're supporting local businesses, specifically in the field of fashion. We're doing it across fields. So today we have Radhika from Black Taxi joining us today. He's going to be talking to us all about fashion, about supporting local fashion, as well as the event industry a little bit. So Radhika, I can quickly start by telling us about Black Taxi and why you started Black Taxi.
Great. Thanks for the intro, Umang. So Black Taxi started in 2011. It was co-founded by me and my partner, Parul. I came in with a lot of my background. I'll give you a little bit about both our
Sure.
backgrounds,
Yeah.
what I with the company. So my background is predominantly in fashion marketing and business, and Parul came in with a lot of hands-on operations and finance and that sort of experience. We started Black Taxi over it was just a result of a cup of coffee actually, and we recognized this huge gap, and this was 2011, Umang, where the retail space in India was very different from what it looks like now. Uh,
Absolutely.
so, we were sitting and we were talking about just a regular conversation between two cousins who were talking about where do we go and shop and how do we find clothes that aren't worn by five other of our friends and, people in our circle. And we also realized that a lot of emerging designers back then didn't have dedicated avenues to sell and
Right.
find consumers at a more personal level. And that's basically how Black Taxi started. We started connecting with a lot of brands and designers. Some of them, to be honest, didn't even have a brand at that point. They were just freelancing as as illustrators and as graphic designers or as fashion designers, and they wanted to launch a brand. So we sort
Right.
of came said, look, we are organizing this pop-up. And do you think you have a product line and you can get it ready in 2 months to launch? And they said, yeah, of course. But what we can do is maybe we can't have a lot of, we can't work with quantity, but we can definitely produce a sample line and take orders on it. So that basically was our first event, Umang, where we had 25 designers. We took up a space. We said, you know what, we're going to just put up tables and chairs and products. Our focus was totally on products, not on how the event looked and the production. It
Right.
was just a trial and a run kind of a event for us, the first one. And we didn't have marketing budgets. It was just Parul and me. We didn't even have a team, to be honest. Our team was the designers we were working with, and it was the
Right.
most fun event that we've done. The excitement levels not only just with the brands that we were working with, but also when the shoppers came in, because it was something that they hadn't seen or experienced. So we got a lot of
Right.
appreciation for it. And I think rest is history. We've done 60 events in the past 9 years now. We've traveled to 4 cities and 2 countries. We went international with a show in Singapore in 2018.
Hmm.
And yeah, we unfortunately have written off pretty this whole year in terms of events.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah,
So
so
we'll talk about that a little bit. But before that, we actually had Aditya Mehta from Art and Found who also does something similar where he curates artists and you're curating fashion designers. Could you talk to me a little bit about your curation process, about how you get local people to come on board? How do you pick them, and how do you make sure that they get the platform they deserve?
for sure. I think that is our USP among the curation bit, because a couple of reasons for that. I think we've always been a company which is we carved a niche very in the very beginning, when we started, we realized that, okay, we're not a company that, does bridal events, or we're not that space where people come and shop for, bridal and couture and luxury. So we carved a very niche segment, which we call affordable luxury. And I think curation became very key, because when the consumer came to a Black Taxi event, they wanted, or rather expected, a certain segment of designers that we worked with. So
Right.
our focus on curation has, since day one, been our priority. Of course, initially the first 4 years, we proactively reached a lot of designers. I think social media has played such a important and crucial
Right.
role in just creating awareness, not only just from an events perspective, but also from the designers. The designers were also able to find us and find,
Right.
other channels to sort of grow and reach the consumers. So our curation process, honestly, initially was us reaching out to brands that we personally could relate to.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think it helped that Parul and I both had very overlapping and very distinct sense of personal styles. We were
Right.
very educated, and we were very we're very fond of our textiles, and we
Right.
love listening to processes. So I think that has always helped, that personally we both have been very enthusiastic about the curation aspect of it.
Right.
Um, and we always try to maintain a good balance between repeat brands and new brands. We try to find at least 40% new labels at every event and every season, because that sort of keeps giving a good variety to the consumers also. And
Right.
as far the second part of your question, which is what is the criteria for curation, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think it's just the design element that the brand sort of brings in, and the story element that the brand brings in. It somehow happened that over the last 5 years, we've ended up working with a lot of really amazing and talented designers and labels that have been advocates for sustainable fashion, ethical sourcing. A lot of them have been since day one supporting, and long before this became a very vocal sort of a trend, had been working with artisans and craftsmen and weavers in from different rural areas in India. So that became our niche, and sort of that became our point of focus with our curation.
So let me actually dissect what you just said in a couple of different questions. The first one being, social media. Now, as you see, most social media is super crowded. It's
Yeah.
not as easy to stand out on social media anymore. So, what advice do you have for young designers? Who have a sense of style, who have some aesthetic going. How do they stand out on social media? How do they reach out to you guys or to the wider community?
I think storytelling. I think storytelling has become a very, very important part of sort of attracting consumers. So how I mentioned in the beginning that the retail space has evolved a lot in the past 9 years, and I
Right.
think the biggest change that we have noticed as a company has
Right.
not just been the events have evolved and the designers have evolved, but also the consumer has evolved so much among.
Right.
We get customers, and our demographic is pretty wide. When it comes
Right.
to our um, people really want to know about you. People want to know why you started, and what your processes are, and what fabrics do you use, where they come from, who makes them, what's your team like. So I feel like that's sort of becoming a more prevalent trend amongst a lot of social media accounts that I'm seeing.
Right.
Personally also enjoying that, as a
Right.
consumer, I enjoy listening to a brand story. So I think
Right.
storytelling is very important. I think authenticity has always been important, but more so now, where there's been a lot of like vocal movement for sort of transparency, and moving away from gaslighting and
Right.
concepts like
Right.
people becoming more and more aware, and sort of um, you know sort of also like adapting those concepts in consumption and their
Right.
behavior. So yeah, I'm not a social media expert, but I think something that we've always done is we've kept it organic. We
Right.
haven't sort of dived deep into paying for promotions or sponsoring our posts. We sort of stay away from that because it reduces our engagement, and that is something that just might be working for us,
Right.
and
Right.
I'd rather not comment on it.
So I don't want you to comment on that either. But let's talk a little bit about the artisans and people, local people that you're working with, and I think that's especially important given the whole movement that's happening towards local business, especially when you see the impact of fashion on the
Hmm.
environment today.
Hmm.
You're seeing brands that are coming up with really low priced goods. The culture of throwing something away rather than reusing it, rewearing it, accessorizing with it, etc., etc. So, how do you see the fashion world evolve going forward with, because obviously online shopping is becoming bigger and bigger,
Hmm.
costs are growing down, costs are becoming more of a factor when purchasing decisions are made, especially with fashion. Uh, how do you see being in the fashion industry? Where do you see that going? Where do you see the industry evolving towards?
So, if you had asked me this question 6 months ago, my answer would have been very different to what it is now.
Right,
Uh, because there've been so many external circumstances and factors which haven't been in, they've caused a lot of uncertainty and
right,
caused a lot of, it's made the market very volatile, and also our behavior towards buying and purchasing really has changed over the last 6 months since the pandemic started. And so I'll do it before and after that, right?
sure,
Actually, just that change was already coming, where people were sort of drifting towards a lot of mindful consumption and sort of going after quality and not quantity. And I think, again, that itself will have such a huge environmental impact given, the just the sheer number of buyers that we are as a country.
right,
Um, Having said that, obviously I see a pro and con about it. I see that, okay, sales might come down, but then design, if people start buying more quality products over quantity, designers can also justify their price points, because the amount of hard work that goes behind creating a
right.
um, hand woven product, and they'll start maybe appreciating it. I felt like there was a lack of appreciation for the product, and I'm
Got
not
it.
jealous of it, but I've always felt that that could really change, and I feel like that change might become faster. So what the pandemic has done is just it sort of sped up the process for of appreciation for like
Right.
handcrafted, hand woven, and artisanal products. And personally, I hope it's here to stay. You know, um,
Right.
I don't know if I answered your question,
No, you
but
did. You did. I think it brings us to another important question, right? In terms of how do people consume fashion going forward as well? What the pandemic has sort of taught us is that we're not going out as much. We don't need that many clothes anymore. Most of the clothes that are lying in our cupboard are untouched because you're not really like going out, seeing people dressing for occasions. So I want you to comment on pattern of consumption going forward as well, and that's going to be impacted. We can see most major brands are now coming up with their workout lines and stay at home lines and things
mm,
like that. And the second question I definitely wanted to address is talking about how people are going to make purchasing decisions. Are they all going to be online? Because I think events are going to be struck the hardest because of something like this. So if you
yeah.
can talk a little bit about both.
Yeah, I'll address your first question, Umang, which is just buying behaviors and patterns, right? So I think the one thing that was lacking from our end as as companies that are advocating for a certain segment of fashion, which has a larger impact on the environment and on just creating more opportunity on a grassroots level, or even encouraging entrepreneurship, right? Like we work with 1,500 businesses that have just focused in fashion and lifestyle over the last 9 years. And, very,
Got it.
very proud of that number. And it's only growing every
Mhm.
day. And this is just us. There have been so many events and so many pop-ups and so many exhibitions that have, emerged. So you can only think of the number of entrepreneurs that have emerged, in the last, I want to say 5 or 6 years. And it's
Right.
been, and which is something that I always say is, I'm diverting a little bit from your question,
No
but
problem. Yeah.
it's always say, people ask us that there's so many exhibitions happening, there's so many events happening, it's so congested. And I always see it as a sort of a collaborative movement. And I say, I don't see it as a competition. I feel like we are out here as events providing opportunity for emerging brands.
Right.
There is just fear of consumer already mentioned. So you are matching the demand to the supply, at the end of the day. So I don't see it as competition. I actually see it as more opportunity givers and more sort of like channels and avenues for designers. And the effect that has on economy, I think you already mentioned that in your sort of caption. But let's not forget that the textile industry in India is the second largest employment generator. So
Right.
that the kind of effect that has on the economy, if we stop buying from local designers and locally manufactured products in textile and fashion, is just going to be really it only needs to grow. We can't let it like go down. So I think that awareness is what has been created with this pandemic. And I feel like people were not sort of being advocates for that movement just because there was a lack of awareness. And I think our designers have done a fantastic job in sort of, advocating for that and creating great social media campaigns where they actually take consumers through the process of production and how the manufacturing is done. And I think those are all connected to in sort of driving consumers to buy from labels.
I actually want to add something as well to that, actually.
Yeah.
So if you see, you spoke very correctly about how the textile industry houses so many, employs so many people. But if you think about it, guys like Zara, H&M, etc., their manufacturing is based in countries like ours.
Mm-hmm.
And when consumption problems hit them, they just stop buying from us. So
Yeah.
all of these people who were first making, cheap clothes at very low wages for these big companies are suddenly unemployed, are not getting
Yeah.
paid as much. So
Yeah.
that's another factor that comes into, can we keep the local economy alive and keep these guys employed? Because what's going to end up happening is Zara, etc., will pull out, but we as a country can then start, utilizing these skills that they've developed, pay them correctly, and start
Yeah.
buying clothes locally.
Definitely. I think, I think fast fashion companies definitely have also generated a lot of employment among. We can't
Right.
escape that, sort of deny that fact. They've been a big
Absolutely.
influence in sort of changing the way our, our export houses and our garment factories are positioned in the world right now. At the same time, I do strongly agree with you in terms of right now when things are looking so bleak and grim, when they've contracted all their orders and they haven't even, I mean, there's a huge campaign going up out there called Pay Up, which, is
Mm-hmm.
basically pushing these brands to pay up like for their orders because they've these orders have already been manufactured and the companies have said that we don't have enough buying happening, so we're not going to pick up the orders and also have canceled future orders. So there's so many people who are unemployed and companies don't have even the basic money to pay for their wages. So I feel like
Right.
this is exactly why we need to be more vocal about local, because this is an ecosystem that's been created. So we are an events company now. We are a very small part of the ecosystem among that is created. And, we give designers the opportunity to sell and get to the
Mm-hmm.
consumer. Go to brick and mortar stores and e-commerce stores, obviously, like now with e-commerce being such a forerunner in the, in the game, it'll be interesting to see what direction that takes, especially in our segment, which is the luxury fashion segment, which has like a certain price point attached to it, right?
Right.
And seen like this hesitance of from the consumer's perspective to buy a certain price point. India is still a lot about touch and feel among when it comes to fashion,
Absolutely. Yeah.
like a huge chunk of it. And I think which is why events like ours have flourished over the years. And to answer the second part of your question, even though right now events are hit the hardest, I do feel once this is over and whenever it's over, hopefully like in the near future,
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that events and brick and mortar stores are gonna bounce back really fast. It's gonna be a very quick transition back to events and the economy opening up once the pandemic and its threat is gone. Because events in India are just not a way of people shopping, but it's also a recreational activity, Umang. Like at our
Absolutely. Yeah. Hmm.
we see so many groups of women who come there like just to take a break from their daily like routines, whether it's work, whether it's taking care of the house, and it's just is such an important part of the ecosystem, to go out and shop, and our culture as well.
Hmm.
uh, want to just go out and shop as an activity, so I don't think that's gonna go away anywhere. Yeah,
Right.
might take some
Yeah.
back, but yeah,
Right.
it's here.
I agree with you, but my sort of thinking about something like this is, as like you said, the fashion industry is becoming more conscious, but e-commerce is thriving at the same time. Uh, and you're an entrepreneur itself in both industries that are affected really badly. One is the event industry, and the other is the fashion industry.
Mhm.
So how are you navigating this time to sort of emerge as a better business and a better company, so that when you get through this, you can be stronger and better? What are the trends you're seeing? What are the things that you suggest people look at going forward?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that is something that we all need to sit and introspect at some point, where we see ourselves. And I always say that it's very important to go back to the why of we started the business, you know,
Right.
and think about what was our value add to the community, to the economy, to ourselves as a business. And I think for
Right.
Black that's been a very clear sort of statement of mission since day one. We
Right.
wanted to be a community. We never just wanted to be an events platform. And I think that's what we've sort of pivoted to in the last 2 or 3 months, where we're just trying to keep an active conversation about the designers that are out there, the brands that we are supporting, the sort of niche that we support. And I think that's
Right.
been a really positive sort of experiment, or you can call it, just a trial run to see, because we realize that a lot of people that follow us are actually direct designers and brands. And
Right.
that's a realization we never had before the pandemic, because the kind of content we started pushing out was directly to support these designers that we
Right.
work that we've not even worked with, but that we look
Right.
up to. And yeah, so I think I'm sorry, could you repeat your question? I feel like I'm just away from the topic.
Yeah. No, my question was basically, you answered it more or less. Basically, how do you
Okay.
introspect as a business owner during
Yeah.
this time? You're seeing how badly your industry has been affected. You don't know when it's going to heal. When will things be back to normal? Uh, how are you spending your time in terms of building a better business for the future? That was my
Yeah.
question.
So I think that's what we're doing right now. I think the focus is just to sort of keep the conversation alive. And I think that's the focus for a lot of companies and a lot of small
Right.
business owners out there. Is
Including ours. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's exactly what you and I spoke about, when we decided to do this. We were like, okay,
Right.
let's keep the conversation alive. So
Right.
what if there are so many people out there doing Instagram lives or putting out IGTVs? Your community and your followers follow you for a certain reason. And
Absolutely.
they want content from you. Otherwise, they'll find other avenues to sort of absorb content from. So I think
Right.
it's very important to keep the community engaged and just keep the conversation alive about things that you stand for, your vision, your mission, of the company, why you started, for who you started. So these are things and questions that I think we haven't thought about in the last 5 years, because we were so caught up in just doing
Right.
events and doing the
Right.
business. And I think this has been a really good time to sort of reboot and sort of, restart the process again and from a fresh canvas. So it's a really good time to evaluate what you stand for as a company and what direction you want to take right now. And more importantly, I think once all of this is over, and it'll be interesting to see, I actually want to see how many small businesses and brands, there's a lot of conversation about just in fashion, about sustainability, about ethical sourcing, about standing up for local brands. I really want to see how much of it is just a dialogue, and how much and what percentage will actually convert from words to action. So
Right.
personally, that's what I'm sort of waiting for, to see that transition, and I'm hoping that it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good
Something
number.
good comes out of all of this. I'd like
Yeah.
you to actually end by telling us a few ways in which we can actually support our local designers and
Yeah.
our artisans, etc. So if you can just talk about a couple of ways in which we can, as people, support them during this hard time.
Yeah. So, Umang, see, we as a company, we don't work. We've not actually had the chance to work directly with a lot of artisans, but I think, like I talked about, the ecosystem that exists, right? We generate sales for designers, and then the designers
Right.
for the employ carigars and artisans and weavers. So it's like a chain. Now,
Right.
when activity like or like avenues like e-commerce and brick and mortar and events are taken away from the designers, it's a ripple effect, right?
Right.
uh, the money is totally out of the system, so at the the person at the receiving end is just not generating any income. So right now, I think, as consumers and as small businesses that have supported each other and are a part of the ecosystem, whether it's food or whether it's fashion or whether it's events or industry, I think it's really important to come together and collaborate. And that's a
Right.
word that's used and focused on for many, many years now. And there's so many like people out there right now who are being very vocal about, okay, let's eliminate competition. How can we come together? What is it we can do together as an industry to, give as much support or create awareness? And I think consumers are also doing a really good job at it, where again, I think it's a matter of awareness, right? When you create awareness, you see
Right.
the you'll see the results on it.
Right.
So I think a couple of things that consumers can do. One is obviously, like, be more proactive about doing research as to find alternatives to the products that are using in your daily life right now, because those are the products that you're buying at the moment. Nobody's going out there, or there's a very small percentage of people going out there and buying products that you don't really need, which
Right.
are basically, satisfaction buys. So, sort of do research on what is the local alternative to the product that you've been using for so many years, and embrace that change. And a lot of one feedback that we've got is that local products, why are they so expensive? And it's cheaper to buy like bigger brands and all of that. But I feel, and that's a mindset that's changing and evolving slowly. But I feel like that needs to sort of change right now. There's a need for it, and there's an urgency that's being created, because we need to be able to support these brands. So
Right.
definitely sort of doing the research and finding local alternatives to, whether it's clothes, whether it's shoes, whether it's beauty products, or
Right.
even things like what do you call it? You're buying your like home decor product. There's so many companies out there that are doing some phenomenal job in working with artisans to create some beautiful products. And
Right.
the other thing is, just go out there, give the brand a follow. These are free things consumers can do, right? Just go
Absolutely.
give the brand a follow, give the brand a shout out. If you've previously purchased from a brand that you like, I'm only going to be relevant to fashion now.
Right.
Share that with your group of friends. Just
Right.
repost something that connects with you on their page, on your Instagram. Give them a good review. I think reviews are a huge missing link, where
Right.
consumers proactive and give reviews, because the percentage of people that buy after reading a review, especially on your bigger aggregators,
Mhm.
is very, it's, you can't evade that, right? So
Correct.
yeah,
Yeah.
all small things that consumers can do, to support their local brands. And obviously, if you're trying to buy something, try and buy it from somebody more locally.
Right. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Radhika. I know it was super early, I think, but it was a fantastic conversation. Really, really appreciate it. Support your local fashion brands, guys, and go ahead and give Black Taxi a follow. They've been doing a fantastic job for the longest time. And
Thank,
yeah, thank you so much.
thank you. I appreciate it. Bye.
Yep. Bye.